The original Predator turned 35 years old this past June, and with everybody celebrating the success of Prey on Hulu, it seemed like a great time to take a look back on this action movie classic.
What the hell are you?
Like all great movies, this one was made with love, sweat, and tears. Lots and lots of sweat and tears. Every droplet of which extends to every bloody, visceral frame. Here's 20 things you may have missed in the original 1987 movie that started it all, Predator. The 1980s are home to some of the most beloved pop culture icons of all time. From the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles to the Transformers, the decade was an action figure factory. And naturally, Predator was no stranger to this. Even though it probably shouldn't have been given its well-deserved R rating, there was definitely a trend around this time of R-rated films getting toys,
Awesome new Predators. Clan leader attacks with whipping dreadlocks.
comics, cartoons, and video games, aimed at an audience who was definitely too young to see the movies they were based on. Predator was a significant force in this trend alongside Terminator and RoboCop. It's oddly fitting then that the voice of the Predator is none other than Peter Optimus Prime Cullen.
Autobots, transform and roll out.
Cullen almost turned down the role after damaging his voice during the production of King Kong, but upon seeing the design of the Predator, he couldn't say no. I guess you could say that free kills are the right of all sentient beings. Did you know that the original Predator was the first American acting gig for Jean-Claude Van Damme? You probably didn't unless you like to scour IMDb pages like I do. He was the original suit actor for the titular Predator, but not the one we see in the movie itself. During the initial shooting, nobody could take the monster seriously since Van Damme's Predator stood at a meager 5'10" up against Arnold Schwarzenegger's 6'2". The costume itself did add some height to Van Damme, but it resulted in the head flopping around a lot, rendering the intended blood-curdling slasher monster into something you'd find on Power Rangers. Although, now I want a Power Rangers vs. Predator to happen. Hasbro, Disney, work this out. Now. After the failure of the initial design, the production team was scrambling to find one that fit the bill. No monster means no monster movie, after all.
I'm scared, Pancho.
At the 11th hour, Arnold Schwarzenegger recommended that his old pal Stan Winston, the mastermind behind the special effects that turned Arnold into the Terminator, supply the new design for the Predator. Sam actually sketched out the new design while flying out to Japan for a symposium on Ridley Scott's Alien. James Cameron actually had some input on the Predator's design, as he always wanted to see a monster with mandibles, which prompted Stan to add the Predator's oral appendages to its final iteration. This definitely gives more precedence to the AVP series than one might have initially believed. Much like the humans and the Gungans on Naboo, the Alien and the Predator form a symbiont circle.
What happens to one of you will affect the other. You must understand this.
You keep hearing that they really don't make movies like they used to. It's a common complaint that you'll hear at the time from people who like to gripe about the overuse of green screens and bad CGI. Now, movies like Predator are no stranger to the use of green screen visual effects, but it can't be ignored how much atmosphere was gained from its on-location shoots. Most of the film was shot in the jungles of Mismaloya, Mexico, and you can feel that in every scene. Unfortunately, the actors did too.
Seen some badass bush before, man, but nothing like this.
As they suffered through stifling heat, sweltering humidity, and leeches. All of the night shots were filmed in the freezing cold. It only got worse on Arnold's part as the mud he was wearing, that was actually pottery clay, would get cold, wet, and even lower his internal body temperature. Heat lamps just made the clay dry out, so he resorted to drinking a schnapps mixture called Jaeger tea to warm himself up. That's right, it just got him drunk.
I ain't got time to bleed.
You got time to duck?
It's no surprise that a film about a bunch of macho men fighting for their life in the jungle would see their actors getting into some pedantic posturing behind the scenes. Jesse Ventura, the actor who played Blaine, was over the moon when he found out from the wardrobe department that his arms were 1 inch bigger than Arnold Commando Schwarzenegger's. He suggested to old Arnie that they measure arms, and whoever had the biggest would get a bottle of champagne. Arnold ended up winning because he had told the wardrobe department in advance to tell Ventura that his arms were bigger. As underhanded as this is, Arnold probably earned it considering how hard the shoot was, even if this may have enabled some poor drinking habits along the way. Special effects are synonymous with the art of the green screen. If you've looked at any behind-the-scenes footage of any blockbuster from the past 2 decades, you're bound to see a green background or someone wearing the green background as a gimp suit. But in the case of the original Predator, that wouldn't have worked, considering the jungles they shot in were, green. So they covered the suit in a red material that was then chroma keyed out to achieve the invisibility cloaking effect seen in the final film. In addition to the Predator dolled up like a dancing lobster from the Amanda Show, the same take was repeated with a 30% wider lens on the camera. Both takes would be combined for shots featuring the cloaking, and the wider shots would leave a vague outline of the Predator, resulting in this mind-blowing effect. Everyone's favorite radio operator and map holder, Hawkins, was played by none other than Shane Black. While not cast for his acting chops as the writer of Lethal Weapon's screenplay, he was covertly cast so he could make last-minute script edits that better suited the film, although he remained on set. This contribution definitely brought him some fanboy karma, as he'd been able to write and direct his own installment in the series. That, unfortunately, was 2018's The Predator, which was garbage.
You want to know someone's alien.
The production hell this movie was put through was no joke, but ultimately it was needed. Taking a break to redesign the Predator's costume gave the crew time to edit together an hour of footage, which impressed Fox so much they gave them more money for more elaborate action set pieces in the third act. Think about it, if they hadn't flubbed the first suit design, Dutch's "Get to the chopper"
Get to the chopper!
might not have held the same weight. This reminds me of how the Wachowskis would blow the entire budget of The Matrix just to get that opening chase scene with Trinity, and that impressed WB so much that they gave them more money to fully realize their vision. So I guess the moral of the story is just to waste the money of billion-dollar corporations to make rad art. I can get behind that. Predator is without a doubt one of the most iconic movie monsters of all time. And like all the best monster designs, it strikes the perfect balance of creepy, gross, and badass. You love to see it rip people apart, but you'd never want to see one in real life. That's why its counterpart in the Xenomorph is equally well remembered, with its disturbingly sleek head, its mouth within mouths, and its acidic blood. Even if you manage to kill it, it's probably going to kill you by bleeding on you. The Predator matches it in every category with its dreadlocks, its angular mandibles, that I do not want anywhere near me, and its luminescent green blood. Initially, the plan was to have the blood be orange and to spiff it up in post-production, but it looked so bad on camera that they had to find an alternative, and find it they did within the belly of a glow stick, which they purchased over the counter. It just goes to show that sometimes the simplest solution is the best solution. Now, I'm not here to analyze the politics of 1987's Predator, but it is absolutely wild that 3 of its cast members ran for office, and 2 of them even succeeded. Everyone knows about Arnold the Governator Schwarzenegger, and Jesse Ventura would later serve as the governor of Minnesota from 1999 to 2003. Sonny Landham, who played Billy, ran for governor in Kentucky in 2003, hoping to repeat the success of his Predator co-stars. Unfortunately, things didn't pan out for Sonny, but who could blame him? If Jesse and Arnold were still into acting, I'd pitch a political thriller by the way of The Expendables. Batman's fought just about everyone, and the Predator is no exception. Given the immense popularity of the 2 characters after their films set the world on fire in the late 80s, it was inevitable that the 2 would clash in the pages of DC Comics in 1991, even if the canonicity of those stories is dubious. However, that's not the first DC Predator crossover. That would be in the movie proper, as we can see Hawkins reading a Sergeant Rock comic, a DC classic World War II soldier boy. No, not the one from The Boys. That was a Dynamite book. Anyway, those comics were all over the set as Schwarzenegger was busy doing research for his own adaptation of the series in between shoots. The fact that this passion project never made it to the big screen is a tragedy. Arnie as Sergeant Rock is like RDJ to Iron Man. I can't see anyone else being half as iconic in the role.
It's time to let old Painless out the bag.
One of the things that made the experience of Predator so effective was its daft blending of genres. Before it turns into a slasher film, Predator practically tricks you into thinking you're watching a sequel to Commando. You've got explosions aplenty, Dutch impaling a guy with a machete, and Blaine going to work with his M134 minigun is so iconic he invented the heavy weapons guy archetype. The gun in question is typically mounted to the side of a helicopter, so it makes no conventional sense for someone to wield it handheld. But this movie's too cool for conventional wisdom. which is why Blaine gets to go ham with Old Painless. Jesse Ventura became the first actor to wield a minigun handheld on the silver screen, and that proved to be one of the film's most iconic elements. Seriously, no Blaine, no heavy weapons guy from Team Fortress 2, and no Jinx from Arcane. And the world would be so much worse off for it. Part of the shoot was 48 hours before Arnold Schwarzenegger's wedding rehearsal dinner. Jesse Ventura continually teased him about his upcoming betrothal, which would often ruin takes. This led to Schwarzenegger missing the final preparation, and his fiancée Marie Shriver wasn't too happy about that. You can really feel that Arnold carried that disappointing husband energy into 1999's Jingle All the Way, and even further into his divorce in 2011. I have a feeling that he regrets picking Jesse Ventura for the role of Blaine. Ventura was only hired under the condition that he had a bodyguard to protect the other actors from himself. I feel like a relationship counselor would have been a better choice. Dutch's machete is easily one of the sickest blades in action movie history. Its design is sleek, effective, and it's got enough heft so that you really have to put your all into it. And that's fitting, as someone's all was definitely put into making that machete. On the set of the movie, a local knife maker was trying to sell his wares to the production team. Director John McTiernan wasn't interested in any of the knives present, but admired the craftsmanship enough to request a custom-made machete. Giving the knife maker free rein to flex, his craft resulted in a hefty hunk of steel that we see in the film. In fact, it was so heavy they couldn't keep using it, which is why Dutch embeds it in an enemy soldier's chest, birthing the classic "stick around" quip. The Predator is such an enduring character, but would you really believe that he's barely in his own movie? He's only on screen for 8 minutes out of an hour and 47-minute film. That's about 13% of the movie if you don't count the credits. That's a testament to not only how good the design is, but how his effect on the cast adds so much suspense to the movie. Horror isn't just the scares or the gore. In the case of The Predator, where the heroes think the horror can be successfully confronted, it's all about the build-up. That's what makes lines like, "If it bleeds, we can kill it," so potent. Given that there's been a bunch of lore connecting the Xenomorphs and the Yautja, fans love to pick apart these classics to see if there was ever any connective tissue between the original films. There's a scene where one of the crew stabs a scorpion to death, which was actually a real-life scorpion that wandered onto set. By the way, we never condone animal cruelty. And after they leave the scene, the Predator picks it up. He looks at it intently before dropping it on the ground, and this has led some fans to speculate that he interprets the scorpion corpse as a deceased facehugger. When facehuggers and Alien plant eggs in their victims, they fall off the host body, shrivel up, and die. Maybe the Predator thinks our main characters are all infected, and he's doing them, and the galaxy, a favor. Whether or not this was the intent, it's almost inevitable that the monster movie franchise will make its flagship creature the hero, and you can't blame people for wanting that here. The word predator refers to an animal that preys on a weaker animal for food. The predator from Predator skins humans alive and collects trophies from their corpses. The predator from Predator isn't a predator, he's just a big game hunter.
Well, we took a vote. Predator's cooler, right?
Our main characters are even aware of this, as they never refer to this alien entity as a predator, but rather as a hunter. None of the films in the series ever referred to it as such until 2018's abysmal The Predator, which makes sense considering that when the script from the original film was written in 1984, it was called Hunter. Next thing you'll tell me that the alien from Alien isn't an alien. Actually, from the Xenomorph's perspective, aren't we the aliens? While it's never the entirety of what makes a character memorable, one-liners are what define a character in the collective cultural consciousness. For better or worse, Arnold Schwarzenegger has had many iconic lines, as he has muscles. We've already talked about the history of "Stick Around," but more people know the most iconic line than people that have ever seen the movie. I'm talking about "Get to the chopper."
Get to the chopper!
One of Arnie's best, and he would definitely agree, as it's his favorite one-liner he's ever coined. But thank God he got to the chopper. With the Predator and all of his comrades slain, Dutch can finally get some well-earned respite. Although surprisingly enough, it's the Predator himself that's flying him home. The helicopter pilot scene at the end of the movie is Kevin Peter Hall, who replaced Jean-Claude Van Damme as the suit actor for the Predator. Standing at 7'3", he was absolutely perfect to play one of the most iconic movie monsters of all time. Director John McTiernan gave him this brief on-screen role as he was painfully aware of how exhausting Hall's work as the Predator had been. After the movie ends and prior to the end credits, the main cast all make a brief appearance with their names on screen, saluting to the camera. The one exception to this is Arnold Schwarzenegger, as the footage used for this appearance was taken from a prior scene in the movie.
You got no style, Dutch, you know that.
Taking into account how brutal the production of this movie was, makes the journeys the characters go on feel all the more visceral. You feel like you've gone through hell with them, and when Dutch gets to the chopper, we feel like we're on our way out. What are your favorite moments, Easter eggs, or behind the scenes facts that make this your favorite movie to rewatch? Leave a comment below.